Imagine a room with over 20 world leaders. I mean, some of the biggest names in global politics, all right there in one place. What are they actually talking about behind closed doors?
Hmm.
What kind of, power dynamics are swirling around? And maybe the big question is, what does it mean for you? Whether you're like tracking markets, geopolitics, or just trying to figure out the world.
Exactly. And this isn't just hypothetical. We're
Right.
talking about the upcoming Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, the SCO. It's happening in Tianjin, China, August 31st to September 1st, 2025.
Right. And the guest list is, well, it's significant.
It really is. You've got Chinese President Xi Jinping hosting, Russian
Mm.
President Vladimir Putin will be there, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi too. Key players.
Definitely. So we've been looking at a recent report from the Times of India on this.
We have. And our mission today really is to unpack not just, who's showing up, but why this particular summit feels so significant right now. We want to explore those underlying currents, the global power shifts, the motivations of Xi, Putin, Modi, and, well, what it all might signal for international relations going forward.
Yeah, we're going to try and cut through the noise, pull out the really important stuff so you walk away feeling, properly clued in about this event and how it fits into the bigger picture.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's get right into it. So this Times of India report we're using, it describes the summit as more than just your average diplomatic meetup. It calls it a major show of global South solidarity and, maybe more pointedly, diplomatic support for Russia.
Right.
That's quite a statement to start with. What does that signal right off the bat?
Well, I think what's immediately striking is just the scale and the symbolism involved. Over 20 world leaders, Xi Jinping leading it, Putin, Modi. It's big.
It is.
This meeting in Tianjin, it feels less like just a routine summit and more like a deliberate statement about how the international landscape is shifting.
Okay, shifting how? What does global South solidarity mean in this context?
Well, generally, when we talk about the global South, we mean countries in Africa, Latin America, developing Asia. Often they share, historical experiences, development goals, and maybe a desire for a world order that isn't so dominated by, say, the U.S. and Europe.
A multipolar world.
Exactly. Multipolar.
Yeah, sure.
So this solidarity, it can look like pushing back against perceived Western dominance,
Yeah.
or maybe trying to build different global structures. And then there's the diplomatic support for Russia part. That's also very telling.
Especially given the context.
Absolutely. And think about Modi's visit. It's his first trip to China in over 7 years. That's significant in itself, especially as they're still, trying to ease tensions after those border clashes back in 2020.
Right, those were serious.
They were. And remember, the last time Modi shared a big stage with Xi and Putin was at the BRICS summit in Kazan.
Ah, yes, BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa now expanding.
Right. And that Kazan meeting happened when many Western leaders were actively distancing themselves from Putin because of the war in Ukraine. So seeing them together again at the SCO, it definitely suggests these nations are charting their own course and engaging despite Western pressure.
Yeah, it sends a clear message. Okay, so that BRICS context really does clarify things. It makes you wonder, though, what's the ultimate goal here? There's an analyst mentioned in the report, Eric Olander.
Oh, yes, from the China Global South Project.
That's the one. He suggests she wants to use this summit to basically showcase, and this is a quote, what a post-American-led international order begins to look like.
Wow.
It's a bold statement.
It is. If she is really aiming for that, what does that actually imply? I mean, are we talking a total rewrite of the global rulebook or something more gradual?
Well, Olander's point is really insightful if you connect it to the bigger picture. He argues this gathering is essentially a platform to show that all White House efforts since January to counter China, Iran, Russia, and now India have not had the intended effect. So a message to Washington.
Pretty explicitly, yes. It's like saying your containment strategies aren't working on us. He even mentions how much BRICS has rattled U.S. President Donald Trump, suggesting that rattling the established powers is, well, precisely what these groups are designed to do.
Interesting. So it's about creating alternatives.
Exactly. Alternative centers of power, influence. It's probably less about a sudden revolution, more a steady, persistent rebalancing.
Yeah.
Maybe developing financial systems not so tied to the U.S. dollar, or new security setups outside of NATO, or just stronger voting blocs in places like the UN.
Okay.
And Chinese officials themselves are playing this up. They've called this year's summit the largest since the SCO started back in 2001. They're framing the bloc as an important force in building a new type of international relations.
So positioning the SCO as a key shaver of the future.
Precisely. A future where perhaps the West isn't the only one calling the shots.
Okay, so the SCO clearly has these grand ambitions now, but maybe we should back up a bit. For listeners who aren't super familiar with it, can you trace its journey? How did this group even start, and what does its history tell us about maybe its actual capabilities today?
Sure, absolutely. And the journey is quite revealing, actually. It started back in 2001. Initially, it was 6 Eurasian countries: China, Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan.
Right, more regional focus then.
Primarily, yes. The main focus was regional security, things like counterterrorism, dealing with extremism in Central Asia. But it's grown a lot.
How so?
Well, now there are 10 permanent members. India and Pakistan joined in 2017, which was a huge shift,
Yeah.
and Iran became a full member just last year.
India and Pakistan joining together, that must have changed the dynamic.
Oh, definitely. It transformed it from mostly a Central Asian thing into a much broader pan-Eurasian group.
Yeah.
And yeah, bringing in 2 nuclear powers with, let's say, a complex history.
Understatement.
Right. It certainly made consensus building more intricate. And then you add Iran, further linking Central Asia with the Middle East and South Asia. Plus, there are now 16 dialogue and observer states. Countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE are getting involved too. So the agenda has really broadened out to economics, military cooperation across a huge area.
So it's bigger, covers more ground, but does bigger mean more effective?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Despite this growth, despite the ability to get all these leaders in a room, the convening power, as they say, some analysts point out, that the actual outcomes, the concrete results, have often been limited.
Like who?
Manoj Kewalramani, he's with the Takshashila Institution. He notes that the bloc's precise vision can seem rather fuzzy.
Fuzzy.
Yeah, unclear. And he argues its effectiveness in addressing substantial security issues remains very limited. He suggests this fuzziness comes from having so many members with diverse, sometimes conflicting national interests.
Makes sense.
So they might issue broad statements, project unity, but maybe struggle with achieving tangible results on the really tough stuff. More about the narrative than concrete action, at least historically.
Narrative projection versus tangible outcomes. That's a really useful distinction. And you mentioned conflicting interests. With such a diverse group, India and Pakistan now full members, it just can't always be, smooth sailing, can it?
Oh, absolutely not.
We hear about solidarity, but where are the cracks? What are the real internal frictions that might hold the SCO back from this grand vision?
You've definitely hit on a crucial point there.
Ah.
While the solidarity message is pushed hard, the frictions are real and sometimes quite visible. A clear example came up just this past June.
What happened?
The SCO defense ministers had a meeting, but they couldn't agree on a joint statement. Failed to adopt one.
Why not?
Because India objected. They objected because the statement didn't mention a specific terror attack that happened on April 22nd against Hindu pilgrims in Kashmir.
Ah, so a direct clash over national security priorities.
Exactly. Not a minor thing. And it shows how sensitive national issues can derail consensus. Also, earlier this year, New Delhi apparently refused to endorse the SCO's condemnation of Israeli strikes on Iran.
Okay, so different foreign policy stances, too.
Right. These aren't just small disagreements. They highlight fundamental differences in priorities and how members see the world, or at least what they're willing to put their name to collectively. It's that classic challenge of multilateral groups, isn't it? You can agree on broad principles, but specifics.
Especially with long-standing issues between members.
Precisely. It really underscores why that vision might stay fuzzy and why effectiveness, particularly on security, can be limited. Getting consensus among rivals is tough.
Yeah, those examples really show the limits of that solidarity label.
Right.
But okay, despite these internal issues and even the India-China border problems we talked about, the report suggests broader geopolitics might actually be pushing India and China towards talking more. It feels a bit counterintuitive.
It does seem that way on the surface.
So what's driving this? Why would Modi make this significant trip now, after 7 years, given all that?
Well, the report points to 2 key drivers that seem to be kind of overriding some of the friction, at least for now. First, things on the border, while not totally resolved, have reportedly eased somewhat.
Okay, so a bit more stability there helps.
Right. It creates space for diplomacy without immediate military escalation hanging over everything. But second, and this might be the bigger factor, the report mentions renewed tariff pressures on New Delhi from the Trump administration.
External pressure from the U.S.
Exactly. The prospect of U.S. tariffs potentially hitting key Indian exports, things like steel, aluminum, maybe impacting IT services, that creates a really strong incentive for India to, well, stabilize relationships elsewhere and look for reliable partners.
And China's a huge trading partner.
Massive. So this external economic pressure makes dialogue with China look more strategically necessary for India right now. Eric Olander, the analyst we mentioned, he observes it's likely New Delhi will swallow their pride and put this year's SCO problems behind them in a bid to maintain momentum in the détente with China, which is a key Modi priority right now.
Swallow their pride. That's telling.
It is. And India's own foreign ministry, an official named Tanmaya Lal, has laid out India's priorities for the SCO quite clearly. Trade, connectivity, and respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity. Very practical, self-interested goals.
So engaging Xi now is a strategic calculation for India, driven by economics and a desire for stability.
That seems to be the interpretation, yes, amidst a pretty complex global picture.
Okay, so it sounds like pragmatism is playing a big role, maybe more than deep ideological alignment sometimes. Given that, what can we realistically expect from these meetings, especially the one-on-one bilaterals happening on the sidelines? Are we likely to see big, game-changing policy announcements, or is it more about the visuals, the symbolism?
I think the consensus among analysts, and Olander says this quite directly, is that substantive, truly game-changing breakthroughs are probably unlikely. These large summits with so many players, so many different agendas, it's hard to hash out major new policies on the spot. But, and this is key, the optics are seen as incredibly important.
Optics. The look of the thing.
Exactly. Olander states, this summit is about optics, really powerful optics. So what does that mean in practice? It means the handshakes, the photos, the joint appearances, the carefully framed announcements, they're all designed to send specific messages.
Messages to who? Domestic audiences? International ones?
Both, definitely. So we might hear announcements or see discussions around things like maybe further troop withdrawals from border areas, perhaps some agreements on trade facilitation, easing visas for travel, cooperation on climate change, maybe some people-to-people initiatives, things that sound positive, signal cooperation and stability, even if the really thorny underlying issues aren't fully resolved.
Incremental steps presented as progress.
Pretty much. And another point on optics, look at Vladimir Putin. He's apparently staying on in China after the SCO summit finishes.
Oh, really? For what?
For a World War II military parade in Beijing.
Yeah.
That's an unusually long foreign trip for him these days. Staying on beyond the SCO meeting itself really underscores the depth of the Russia-China relationship they want to showcase.
Right. It reinforces that partnership, separate from the wider SCO group even.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a powerful visual statement of their strategic alignment, reinforcing that idea of a cohesive bloc, perhaps standing apart from the West. It's all part of the theater, the optics.
So, putting it all together from this deep dive, it feels like the SCO summit is this really complex mix. You've got the ambition, the talk of solidarity, the geopolitical chess moves, but also these undeniable internal frictions, the rivalries, and then overlaying it all is this intense focus on strategic optics.
Yeah.
It's definitely more than just leaders shaking hands.
Oh, absolutely. What we're really seeing here isn't just a meeting. It's like a snapshot of a world order that's actively evolving right before our eyes.
Yeah.
You know, old alliances are being tested, new partnerships are forming, sometimes out of shared interest, sometimes out of pure strategic necessity. It just reminds you that global power isn't static. It's constantly shifting.
And what looks like unity might hide a lot of individual agendas underneath.
Precisely. Those intricate layers of national interest calculated moves.
Yeah.
This summit really highlights how alternative frameworks for how the world works are being built, or at least attempted. Whether they're truly unified or more like, coalitions of convenience, that remains to be seen.
So maybe something for you, the listener, to think about after this deep dive. In a world that seems increasingly shaped by these different blocks, shifting loyalties, how might the sheer convening power of an organization like the SCO, even with all its internal issues and that fuzzy vision we talked about, how might that ultimately change what we even mean by effective multilateralism in the years ahead?